Welcome, and it's Thursday, December 29th, and we're now only 2 days away from the new year. Kind of crazy, right? But we're back with our normal Thursday NFL coverage. On tap today, we're going to be covering all of the Week 17 NFL matchups as the season winds down. We're going to give our picks of the week. We're going to look at the updated playoff standings. It should be some fun. This is your early reminder to drop a like on the podcast, on the show, whatever you want to call it. Leave a like, subscribe if you're new, or if you're just lurking. And turn those post notifications on, man, because sometimes I post these late, sometimes a little early. Regardless, turn those on. YouTube will alert you when it does go live. Without further ado, welcome to episode 22 of the Anomaly Podcast. I'm your host, Owen Stiftar. Let's close out 2022 on a strong note. First up, we're going to look at the updated playoff standings on the AFC and NFC sides, obviously. We're going to start in the AFC side of things. Obviously, you see the 1 seed is the Buffalo Bills. They would have a bye week to start the NFL playoffs if it were to start today. But right now, they are the 1 seed. The number 2 seed is the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, they're creeping in on taking the 1 seed from Buffalo, but they need some help. The 3 seed is the Cincinnati Bengals, which if Cincinnati were to win out, which would mean they would beat the Buffalo Bills, the current 1 seed, and if they got some help with Kansas City losing a game, Cincy would be your number 1 seed. So those are really only 3 teams left to possibly have home field advantage. There we go. And the AFC side of things, the 4 seed is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They would go up against the 5 seed Baltimore Ravens if the playoffs were to happen today. The 6 seed is the Chargers, who have looked red hot ever since their offense has been healthy. And the 7 seed is the Miami Dolphins, which we'll get into later, but I don't expect them to make the playoffs. The number 1 seed on the NFC side of things is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're killing it. They might have Jalen Hurts back this week. If they don't, we'll get into it in a little bit, but they should be just fine. The number 2 seed is the Minnesota Vikings, who are hoping and praying they can keep this number 2 seed because the Niners are red hot. Speaking of the Niners, they are the 3 seed, winning 9 straight or 8 straight. Regardless, they've been insane. The 4 seed is the Tampa Bay Bucks. We know what kind of a disaster that NFC South has been all season, but the Bucks are winning their division and they're leading their division, so they get a home game in the playoffs. The 5 seed is the Dallas Cowboys. They've been red hot, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Not really as of late, but we know the talent is there, right? The 6 seed is the Giants, who could clinch a playoff spot this weekend. We'll get into that later. And the 7 seed is the Washington Commanders, who they're on a 2-game skid, and they're trying to stay in the playoffs. But this week they got the Browns, so maybe that's good or bad news for them. But those are your updated playoff standings. Let's move over to tonight's game, Thursday Night Football. We have the 11-4 Dallas Cowboys playing Tennessee at 7-8. The biggest question here, can Malik Willis figure something out? Or will Dallas keep rolling? This is the final Thursday Night Football game of the season. The Titans, they are the home team here, but we'll start with them. They're on a 5-game losing streak. Obviously not good. And that's including a loss last week to the then 1-win Texans team. So not a great stretch for this Texans team. And on top of a 5-game losing streak, their best player on both sides of the ball, Derrick Henry, running back, obviously, he's questionable for tonight's game. It could be interesting. There's a rumor going around that Mike Vrabel might sit some of his valuable starters on either side of the ball to prepare for next week, because no matter what happens this week, next week they will be playing for the division against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which we'll talk about later. But it would be a bold strategy, to quote Dodgeball, bold strategy, Cotton. But Mike Vrabel, it would be a very bold strategy to sit some of your starters to prepare for next week, like a Derrick Henry. But he would be the one to do it. He would be the one to do it, and especially if this game wouldn't matter anyway, why not go out there and just put all your chips on the table for next week. But getting back on track here. A big reason why that they've been on this 5-game losing streak is they are right now at a -5 turnover differential, which is bottom 5 in the league, obviously. And on top of that, their starting quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, has been out. Malik Willis is not much of a passer. We knew this coming out of college, but he's looked very poor. And as a quarterback, it is very weird to see a quarterback not have at least over 100 yards, saying that he has started 5 total games this season. But good thing for Tennessee here in this matchup, a lot of negatives so far. A good thing is that they do rank 2nd in the NFL against the run, and we know how much Dallas likes to run. For Dallas, they're still technically in the race for the NFC East division. Obviously, they would need a lot of help. They're coming off of a win against the Eagles, but they would need the Eagles to lose their last 2 games, and they would have to win out. So Dallas would need a lot of help to get home field advantage, but technically, it's still a possibility. But for tonight, Tony Pollard, he's questionable for tonight's game as well, the backup running back for the Dallas Cowboys with a thigh injury. In this matchup, though, I expect Dallas to still run the ball a heavy amount, regardless of how well it does. Saying that Tennessee has the 2nd best run defense. But regardless of how this offense plays, I believe the defense can pull it out for Dallas against a quarterback who doesn't know how to throw for over 100 yards in the NFL today. Obviously, Malik Willis. But next up, as we move towards the Sunday games, we have the 4-11 Arizona Cardinals going into Atlanta to take on the 5-10 Atlanta Falcons. Both of these teams are limping down the stretch of the season, to say the least. Atlanta, they've averaged just 14 points a game in the last 4 games, which they've lost all 4. And their rookie quarterback, Desmond Ridder, he's showing those regular rookie growing pains that you would typically see early in the year, saying that they should have started Desmond Ridder from the beginning of the year, but they're getting it late in the year when they still technically have a shot at the playoffs. So it's really all on Atlanta at this point. But for Arizona, they only average about 15.5 points a game the last 5 weeks, which they've lost all 5 weeks. This is an ugly game. I don't expect this to be high scoring really at all, but I believe the Cardinals will come into this game and they're going to pull off a light upset because I do believe in the talent players on Arizona's side of things more so than Atlanta's. But the biggest thing about this game, it really doesn't have anything to do with the players. Just one player. And I will say, shout out to J.J. Watt. Obviously, he's a defensive lineman for the Cardinals right now, famously known for the Texans. But he just announced his retirement just a couple days ago. He will retire at the end of the season. J.J. Watt, he's already played his last home game as a Cardinal. He's got 2 road games left. But he's an amazing player, man. He's a 5-time All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowl selection, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, which has only been done by 3 total people in NFL history. Aaron Donald, Lawrence Taylor, and J.J. Watt. The 3 of those guys have been amazing. J.J., he was a force for sure. And with no doubt in 6 years, when we look back on it, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, you can bet your house, car, livelihoods, J.J. Watt will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he will retire as the greatest Texans player of all time, without a doubt. I do hope, though, even though things ended kind of poorly in Houston, I hope he signs a one-day contract with the Texans. But moving on to the next matchup, we have the 3-12 Chicago Bears going into Detroit to take on the 7-8 Detroit Lions. The Bears, we'll start with them. They are the road team. They're on a 9-game losing streak. There's not much here to say besides that they can play spoiler to their division foe. There we go. But in this game, I'm just hoping they just let Justin Fields continue to cook, have some highlight plays, and the biggest thing is off the field. I hope this offseason they use the money that they have to go out there and get their franchise guys some help. We talked about that topic a lot on Tuesday's show, So if you missed that, go check that out. We talked about Justin Fields and his future in Chicago. But for the Lions, they're the home team here, and they're coming off of a very disappointing loss to Carolina. They allowed over 320 yards on the ground. It was a disaster of a game for Detroit. But, hey, in this game, Chicago, they could be dangerous as well on the ground with Justin Fields. So that will be the deciding factor to me in this game. Chicago, they desperately need a win, even though they don't need a win, if that makes sense. They've lost 9 in a row. I can't imagine those guys want to lose another one, right? So they're going to be coming into this game hungry for a win, and they can run the ball. And if Detroit can't stop the run, which they seem to do for the last month, aside from last week, then it's going to cause Detroit a lot of problems, right? And Detroit, they still want to make the Cinderella run a thing, and they still want to keep this thing alive. They have to get a win here at home against the Bears team, which shouldn't be hard, but it's Detroit. That's all I got for there. But next up, we have the 4-11 Denver Broncos going into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs at 12-3. But the Broncos, a lot's going on with them. They have bottomed out, for sure. They have fired their coach Nathaniel Hackett, and they're now they're going into Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs with an interim head coach. Obviously not the ideal situation. It is funny because there are legitimate debates going on around all the talk shows right now if Russell Wilson is quote-unquote fixable, right? Because the GM of the Broncos came out and he was asked if Russell Wilson was fixable and if any head coach would be interested in taking the job because they're not sure which Russell Wilson they're getting, right? And of course, the GM gave the media-trained answer, and he said, yes, we do believe Russell is fixable, and he is going to be back to top shape next year, or at least that's their hope, which, that's all politics. That's all trying to get a good coach like a Sean Payton to step in the door over there in Denver. But for the Chiefs here in this matchup, they've won 14 straight in this matchup, right, between Denver and Kansas City. Kansas City's won 14 straight, and right now they're hanging on to home field advantage hope in the AFC. Obviously, I think right now they would need Cincy to beat Buffalo, and then they would need Cincy to beat Buffalo, and Kansas City would have to win out. It all starts here, and good thing for Kansas City, Pat Mahomes in his career is 10-0 against the Broncos with an elite passer rating, which a lot of you guys probably don't care about the advanced stats, so I'll leave that out. But Pat Mahomes, he's 10-0 against Denver, looking to go 11-0 to keep their home field advantage hopes alive. And to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this was a close first half. With the players coming out, they're looking to prove something for the interim head coach. Some players are looking to keep or save a job, right, going into the next year. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a relatively close first half, but relatively easy win for the Chiefs when it comes to the second half. Next up, we have an AFC East matchup with the 8-7 Miami Dolphins going into New England. I can't talk right now, but stick with me to take on the 7-8 Patriots. The biggest question here for this game is actually off the field. And to me, it's what do you do with Tua, right? If you're unaware, he's been ruled out of this game after being put into concussion protocol for the third time this season. And it really begs the question, should Tua Tagovailoa hang it up after this season? Should he retire after this season? And it might sound crazy, I know, but there's more to life than football, right? Football is not everything, right? And with suffering a lot of these head injuries that lead to multiple concussions for Tua, they could lead to a lot of long-term issues for Tua. Obviously more and more every single year there's more coming out about CTE and the severity of these hits that these football players take, especially the longer their career goes, right? But you got to think for Tua's personal side of things. I know he has a wife. I'm not sure if he has any kids, but if he does have any, you got to think about them. You got to think about his family, and you got to just think about his overall well-being and livelihood going forward. For Tua, I would hate for him to have to come back this season or next season and to suffer another head injury or another crucial hit to any part of the body, right? Because those are going to have long-term effects on him as a quarterback. And to me, in my opinion, I believe Tua, the Dolphins should sit him for the rest of the year, right? It would make their franchise look good. So for the Dolphins side of things, it makes their franchise look good. But I believe the Dolphins, they need to sit Tua for the rest of the year. Screw the playoffs this year. You need to put that man's livelihood in favor of a playoff run right now, right? And I believe you sit him for the rest of the year. You reevaluate his health in the offseason, and then you come to terms and you make a decision then, right? You obviously make sure it's comfortable with Tua and his family, and then you move forward. But right now, it's more than football. At this point, his health is the top priority for this Dolphins team right now, and I believe Tua needs to sit for the rest of the season. Now, the winner of this game, getting back on track, the winner of this game controls their own destiny going into the AFC wildcard race. I believe the Dolphins are 3-5 on the road this season, and they're on a 4-game losing streak. So obviously, they're not having their best stretch of football, but they've been very streaky all season. The Patriots, they're 3-4 at home, which is unlike the Patriots. It's unpatriotic. But they've lost 4 of their last 5 games as well, so neither team's doing great. For the Dolphins, though, in Week 1, these two teams met. Miami won 20-7. Obviously, they had Tua for that game. They won't have him here. They will have Teddy Bridgewater playing. And Miami does have a chance in this game, I believe, to extend the in the Miami-New England matchup. Miami's won 4 straight. They would have a chance to win 5 straight in this matchup. But I believe with Teddy Bridgewater being the quarterback for Miami, Bill Belichick is going to have something schemed up. He's not going to let a backup quarterback beat him. And Belichick's going to get in the way of the Dolphins' playoff hopes. Patriots become more relevant in the playoff picture. Next up, we have the 4-10-1 Indianapolis Colts going into New York to take on the playoff hopeful New York Giants. Big game for the Giants here, but we'll get into that in just a second. But for Indianapolis, they're the road team here. Obviously, there's not much to talk about, but we'll still get into it. They're coming into this game on a short week after that Monday night loss to the Chargers, and it came out, I believe, yesterday morning that Jeff Saturday is sticking with Nick Foles for the remainder of the season. So I believe this has turned into a situation where Jeff Saturday knows he's not going to get the head coaching job next season. So I believe he is just doing the morally right thing and setting this team up for the best position next season, right? Regardless of the head coach, whoever that would be. But for the Giants here at home, they're still in the playoff hunt, and they could clinch a playoff spot with a win here. So big game for the Giants. They've beat the other 3 AFC South teams this season, so they're looking to sweep the whole AFC South division. Saquon Barkley, he should have a nice game on the ground against the Colts defense, who's coming off that short week against the Chargers. Especially with Nick Foles at quarterback, the Colts defense. I can't talk right now, but stick with me. The Colts defense would be on the field for a long time. I believe that would be the game plan for the Giants, is to control the ball for the majority of the game, force Nick Foles to beat you through the air, and obviously you're gonna feel pretty okay with your game plan at that, right? But in short, give me the Giants here at home to go 9-6-1, clinch a playoff spot for first-year coach Brian Daboll. He should definitely be in the Coach of the Year conversations, even though they're not a top seed, right? Next up, we have the 6-9 New Orleans Saints clicking on to their playoff hopes, going into Philadelphia to take on the 13-2 Eagles. This one should be fun, man. This one should be fun. For the Saints, they're the road team here. They're staying alive in the NFC South, and if they were to make the playoffs, they're going to need a lot to go their way. However, they're on a 2-game winning streak. We know the Buccaneers and the Panthers have been very shaky all season long. Anything can happen. A couple things go their way, and in 2 weeks we're saying, hey, we have a Vikings and Saints playoff matchup, which we know the last time that those teams met up, we know what happened, right? But for the Eagles at home, they're coming off of only their second loss of the season against the Cowboys. And Jalen Hurts, obviously he was out that game. He's still dealing with a shoulder injury. He remains uncertain for this matchup here. And the offense has proved that it can still operate at a high level with Gardner Minshew, even though they had 4 turnovers on offense. That second half, they looked like a completely different team. But in this game, Andy Dalton, he's going to face a lot of pressure from the Philadelphia Eagles, and I believe that Philadelphia, they're going to clean up some turnovers in this game, maybe come up with 2 or 3 of them, and they're going to clinch home field advantage as a result, regardless of who's at quarterback. If they want to maybe play Jalen Hurts the first half of this game and then sit him for the rest of the season, or if they want to play him the entire game and have him sit next week, regardless of what they do, I believe Philadelphia clinches home field advantage in the NFC. Next up, we have an NFC South matchup, possibly the biggest matchup of the week. We have the 6-9 Carolina Panthers going into Tampa to take on the 7-8 Buccaneers, obviously. Carolina, they're coming off of a win last week against Detroit. Very impressive win. They had over 300 yards on the ground, and with that win, they are continuing to make the Bucs' life very difficult this season. But for the Buccaneers, they still have a 1-game lead in the division, and they're clinging on to that lead. I mean, they're hanging on desperately, right? But Tom Brady, he's thrown 2 interceptions each of the last 3 weeks, so it's a bad stretch for Tom Brady. It's a bad stretch for this Bucs offense, and the defense has actually stepped up, right? But the offense is now struggling, where it was flip-flopped early in the season. But the Panthers, for this matchup, they beat the Bucs 21-3 in Week 7, which was a shocker game when we look back at it. But the Panthers, they rushed for 170-plus yards in that game, and they're coming off of that 300-yard game, rushing game that I mentioned twice on this podcast already. So this game, it's going to come down to if the Buccaneers can stop the run, because we know the Panthers love to run the ball. If they're up, down by a lot, down by a million, it doesn't matter. The Panthers are going to run the ball, rain, sleet, or snow, and the Buccaneers are going to have to stop it. If they can't stop it, the Panthers are going to win this game. But if they can, or at least minimize it, the Buccaneers are going to win, and they're going to take this division. One thing I know is you never bet against Tom Brady, which is why I'm taking the Buccaneers here at home to win in a blowout, man, in my opinion. Next up, we have the 6-9 Cleveland Browns going into Washington to take on the 7-1 Commanders. The Browns, they're coming off of a loss to the Saints last week, where they were eliminated from playoff contention. Obviously, it was ugly weather, negative weather at some point. And we have some interesting stuff to talk about, David Njoku, but maybe I'll save that for another episode. But we talked about this team a lot and their future a lot on Tuesday's show. So if you missed it, go check that out. A very fun show, man. We had fans send in submissions for a random submission because they didn't know the topic, and I took the fan submissions of random teams and players, and I gave those submissions New Year's resolutions. So pretty fun episode. If you missed it, go check it out. And yeah, I mean, regardless, drop a like on that, obviously, if you missed it. But in short, in my opinion, for the Browns, we have nothing to lose for the rest of the season. We don't have our first-round pick. We're probably going to make coaching changes in the offseason. So for the Browns team, with Deshaun Watson being back, I believe we're only 1-2 or 1-3 with him as a starter since he's come back. We have nothing to lose. We might as well go out there and play our best football. For Washington, though, they're coming off of a loss to the 49ers, which you can't fault them too much for that. But that does make it 2 straight key losses for them in the NFC playoff mix. Carson Wentz has been named the starter as of yesterday morning from Ron Rivera. You know, Carson Wentz stepped in late last week, and he looked okay in his time, right? But the biggest question is, will this team rally around Carson Wentz? You know, in my opinion, he's no doubt the better player. He's no doubt the best quarterback that the Commanders have on their team. But sometimes in these cases, just like the Jets with Mike White and Zach Wilson, the better talent, the team might not always rally around the better talent, right? They might just rally around a guy that they like more. And in this case, the Commanders seem to love Taylor Heinicke, and it seems like the team just plays better when Taylor Heinicke is out there, even though he's not the best quarterback on the team. You know, regardless, they cannot afford to slip up here, you know, if they want to make the playoffs. And the Commanders, they've only allowed an average of, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe they only allow about 145 rushing yards per game the last 4 weeks, which those last 4 weeks have been a struggle for them. And they're playing a Browns team that loves to run the ball, right? But the Browns have been inconsistent. And they've only averaged about 15 points a game themselves since Deshaun Watson's return, right? So the Browns offense hasn't been up to standards that the Browns fans have set. They haven't been up to standards of what anybody has set, probably, right? And, you know, Cleveland's dangerous here in a nothing to lose spot. Obviously, we don't go against the Browns on this podcast, you know, unless we're not doing the picks of the week, right? But give me the Browns to figure it out on the road in Washington to play spoiler to Washington and maybe put their playoff lives in jeopardy, right? I do expect to see Taylor Heinicke in for the Commanders at some point in the game. Next up, we have an AFC South matchup, a possibly very key matchup. We have the 7-8 Jacksonville Jaguars going into Houston to take on the 2-12-1 Texans. Big game here. But the Jaguars, they are the road team here. They've won 4 of their last 5 games, capturing the division. Not the division title, but they have captured the division over this last week from the Titans, who have been struggling. But in this matchup specifically, okay, when the Jags and the Texans met earlier in the season, the Texans actually got one of their they got their first win, I'll put it that way, against this Jags team in Week 7, I believe, in a 13-6 game. So we gotta ask, you know, is this a trap game for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have been playing great football, but the Texans team's already beat them? So this game, can they avoid being swept by a 2-win team? I don't believe so. You know, I believe Trevor Lawrence he's playing his best football yet. You know, he has 11 touchdowns and only 1 interception in the last 5 games, which they've won 4 of them. They're also using Evan Ingram more and more every week. You know, he's looked amazing. He's a great gadget player for them. It's hard to go against Jacksonville right now with how they've played against Dallas and against other teams in that stretch. They've looked great, and I believe Trevor Lawrence and them can pull out this win. But for Houston, you know, they're coming off of a rare win last week, especially this season. But they did beat this Jacksonville Jaguars team early in the year, as we mentioned, and I believe they're going to be motivated coming into this game. I believe they already have a multiple game lead for the number 1 pick in the draft, so they have nothing to lose here. They might as well go out there and try and sweep the Jags in the season series. But give me Jacksonville if you were unsure. Next up, we're moving on to the 4 o'clock games, where we have the 11-4 San Francisco 49ers going into Las Vegas to take on the 6-9 Raiders. The Bay Area. The Bay Area battle is what this is being called. But in my opinion, it could be one-sided. Excuse me. The 49ers, we'll start with them. They are a Super Bowl contender. They've proven that for us. Some would argue that Brock Purdy stepping in has shown the best side of their offense this whole season, right? but maybe it's just everyone's healthy and they're clicking. But since he stepped in on this 8-game win streak, Brock Purdy has passed for at least 2 touchdowns in 4 straight games. He's been doing his job, right? We'll say that. But for the Raiders, they're the home team here. They're still technically in the AFC playoff race, but with turnovers constantly and the inability to run the football, the recent month that's gotten away, right? And not to mention, yesterday it was released by Josh McDaniels, the head coach of the Raiders, that they are going to bench Derek Carr for the remainder of the season, the last 2 games, and they're going to go with the veteran. Key point here, they're going to go with the veteran, Jarrett Stidham. Very, very questionable depth chart management right there. It's a very questionable move because Jarrett Stidham's not like a rookie, right? I would understand the move if they drafted a rookie quarterback or it was a second-year guy where they were like, you know what, let's see what we got just in case we did want to explore moving off of Derek Carr this offseason, right? But this is Jarrett Stidham. I believe he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years. He's had his chances as a quarterback in New England. He's not that great. And safe to say, Davante Adams, they're arguably their best player on either side of the ball. He wasn't happy with the move. He came out after and said that since him and Derek Carr were roommates and teammates at college, he was the reason why he came to Las Vegas. He wasn't happy about now he's got to play with a backup quarterback, right? So your star player's not happy. Your quarterback's not happy. And I can't imagine the rest of the roster is much happy either, unless your name is Jarrett Stidham, right? I'm in short, I'm expecting a big offseason from this Raiders team when it comes to moves. I wouldn't be shocked if they cut Derek Carr. I wouldn't be shocked if they were to trade Davante Adams. Let's just say I wouldn't be shocked if there was a complete blow up in Las Vegas so Josh McDaniels can have everything the way he wants it, right? But for this matchup, getting back on track, we do get a fun tight end matchup. We do get a Darren Waller and George Kittle matchup. Obviously, 2 of the best tight ends in the NFL. But aside from the tight end matchup, with Jarrett Stidham starting against a team that's on an 8-game winning streak, looking to stay hot and maybe get the 2 seed, I believe San Francisco will pour it on in this game, and I believe they win pretty easily, right, against Jarrett Stidham. Next up, we have maybe the most important game of the week for these 2 teams, but we have the 7-8 New York Jets and the 7-8 Seattle Seahawks going head-to-head. Both teams are in the wild card hunt, but which team is going to snap their losing streak and stay relevant in the playoff hunts in their conferences, right? For the Jets, they've lost 4 in a row, and Mike White is now finally back. He's gonna take the starting quarterback job over Zach Wilson, which it's still very interesting, the whole situation with Zach Wilson, because he hasn't played great, right, in his time with New York, but head coach Robert Saleh, he came to the post-game, or he came to the media, right, and he said that they're not going to give up on Zach Wilson. They still believe he has a future with the team. They just don't believe it's this season, right? So it's very weird to believe that all of a sudden, if the Jets team were to make the playoffs or barely miss the playoffs, that after being benched so many times this year, next year they're just like, Zach Wilson, it's your time again, right? I believe it was just the media-trained answer from the head coach of the Jets to say that they're not going to give up on Zach Wilson. But best believe if the offer's on the table to get him off the books, they're going to get Zach Wilson off the books. But for Seattle, they're the home team here. They've lost 3 in a row. They're now only 3-4 at home this season. And the loss of Tyler Lockett really hurts this offense. And, it is just what we all expected as fans. But it has really hurt this offense, right, to say the least. Both teams here, they need a win. They need to keep their playoff hopes alive. But give me the team that's at home and they have the 12th man in Seattle to take this one, right? And Seattle's going to stay relevant. Mike White is not the savior all Jets fans believe he is. Next up, we have an NFC North matchup. Very interesting game here, which we'll get into. But we have the 12-3 Minnesota Vikings looking to clinch the number 2 seed, while we have the Green Bay Packers looking to make the playoffs at 7-8. But for Minnesota, they've won 2 straight, and a win here would lock up the 2 seed. As I just mentioned, this game is going to be close in my opinion, and that's been the specialty for the Vikings all season long. They've won 11 one-score games this season alone, so we got to put all of the Kirk Cousins is not clutch nonsense to bed, right? Kirk Cousins has shown he can step up when he is needed, and we talked about this team a lot on Tuesday's show. So again, if you missed it, go check out Tuesday's show, man. I do believe this team has the ability to shock the world this season, but obviously for this episode, we're not going to get into all of that. But just with me knowing who the Vikings are and their past history, this game here, even though they have 5 more wins than the Packers, they should easily win this game. This is a game that I believe they probably could lose, right? Saying that they're probably going to come into this game laid back and not really thinking they have a chance at the 1 seed with Jalen Hurts possibly coming back. They could possibly choke the 2 seed as well, right? And that would be a Vikings thing to do. But for the Packers, they've won 3 straight. Aaron Rodgers, he's trying to lead this Packers team on this last-minute playoff run. And good thing for the Packers is that it runs through the NFC North. So they're playing division teams at home the last 2 weeks of the season. This week is Minnesota. Next week is Detroit. So they're in Lambeau Field. But against 2 division teams, right? So they know these teams, they know what they like to do, and they're going to be at home, right? And if you want to ask, how much does Lambeau Field make a difference for the Packers? Green Bay. Green Bay is 15-0 in December under Matt LaFleur, head coach of the Green Bay Packers. So they're dangerous, especially at home in December. And to be honest, if they want to add to that, they better find a defensive plan against Justin Jefferson. I'm not going to act like it's easy. I believe in the first matchup these teams had, he had over 180 yards and a touchdown or 2. He's killed them last season. I believe he's had a couple 100-yard games in a row in the past month or so. So Justin Jefferson, obviously you can make the case he's the best receiver in football, right? I wouldn't go that far yet, but Justin Jefferson is surely amazing, right? But this Packers team, if they want a shot at the playoffs, they have to find a way to minimize Justin Jefferson, right? And obviously it's easier said than done, but playoff hopes are on the line. You got to do what you got to do. For the sake of Minnesota fans, I am going to give the Packers the win here at home with everything that's been said. But for Minnesota fans and the sake of Minnesota fans, I hope you guys get your losses out of the way now, so you don't get to the first round of the playoffs and lose then. But next up, we have the Battle of LA. We have the 5-10 Los Angeles Rams going into LA to take on the Chargers at 8-6, I believe, or 9-6. Regardless, the Rams, they're coming into this game and they are in an unexpected spoiler role. I don't know why I wanted to say such a difficult sentence there. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Baker Mayfield, he's coming into this game. He's played well in his 2 starts at SoFi Stadium, and he's averaged about, I believe, 230 yards and 4 touchdowns with no interceptions in his 2 starts. So he's looked great, and I saw a crazy stat for Baker Mayfield in his time with LA, right? Hear me out on this stat. In his time with LA, Baker Mayfield has the highest passer rating in Rams history with a minimum of 50 attempts on the team. So strictly just with his time with the Rams, and from the time he was picked up to his 50th passing attempt with the team, he has the highest passer rating of any quarterback to ever put on a Rams jersey. I believe it's at 98.9. Matthew Stafford is the second highest with 97.9. And Kurt Warner, obviously Hall of Famer, he is third on that list with 97.2 passer rating, for the first 50 attempts. So Baker Mayfield, he's had 230 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks in his 2 starts at SoFi. He's looked great. I expect him to continue to stay great. And obviously we know the recent news has come out that Matthew Stafford, originally the starting quarterback for the LA Rams, he had a spinal injury. He did come out and he said that he plans to get surgery for that injury and he will return as the starter next season. He's already been granted the position. So it'll be Matt Stafford's team again, right? But I'd say that Baker Mayfield has definitely earned at least one more job in the NFL, and that's all you need as a backup, right? Just keep doing one more. Just one more step, one more day, of putting in the work, and that could last you another year or another contract for Baker Mayfield. So good for Baker. I believe he will get a pretty good deal this offseason, right? But for the Chargers, they're home here. They've won 3 straight, and I believe they've clinched a playoff spot. So good for the Chargers. Obviously, last year they missed it off of some crazy late game clock management from Brandon Staley and the Chargers. But they came back this season, and they've looked great ever since their team's been healthy. Crazy, right? Once their stars have healthy, they've looked better. But I expect this game to be a close game. Baker's going to come out, have another okay game, because that's what Baker does. But give me the Chargers to score a late game touchdown, maybe win the game 28-24 or something along that sort. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, we have the 7-8 Pittsburgh Steelers going into Baltimore to take on the 10-5 Ravens. And this game was flexed down, if you're not sure. So later when we look at our picks of the week, don't be shocked when the graphics just a little bit off. But it shouldn't matter too much, right? This game was flexed down to Sunday Night Football. And to me, it was tough to pick just because we didn't know the status of Lamar Jackson, right? I will say for sure if Lamar doesn't play, I would take the Steelers in this case. But right now, his status is uncertain. So I'm just going to assume that he does play, right? But for Pittsburgh, they're coming off of a win last week against the Raiders in honor of Franco Harris. Obviously, rest in peace. But they frustrated the Raiders to the point where they have collapsed over there in Las Vegas. They benched their starting quarterback. And all in all, their defense has looked very impressive the last month. But especially last week, the Steelers' defense looked amazing. I expect that to continue here in Baltimore. But for Baltimore, they're coming off of a win against the Falcons last week without Lamar Jackson. I believe that was their first win without Lamar since he has been out this season. But good news for this matchup is the Baltimore Ravens won the first matchup of the season against the Steelers team, and they rushed for under 100 yards against the Steelers. So we all know the Ravens' strength. What they love to do is to run the ball. And they struggled to do that against the Steelers the first time around this season. So can they get it going, in this matchup? That's going to be a big question. But with the Ravens possibly set up to win the AFC North with this game, with this matchup, obviously they need some help with Cincy losing a couple games. I believe Lamar is going to play this game. I believe that the Ravens could get some help from Buffalo, right? The number 1 seed in the AFC. And I believe if they can win out, they would have the AFC North Division title. But for this matchup specifically, I believe Lamar plays. I believe they clinch a playoff spot at the bare minimum. And they win a close one, right? Maybe a Justin Tucker field goal, right? But moving on to Monday Night Football, we have the number 1 seed in the AFC. The 13-2 Buffalo Bills on his 6-game winning streak going into Cincinnati to take on the 11-4 3-seed Bengals, right? This is obviously the matchup of the week. This is a mega Monday Night Football matchup. It has tons of implications on the line, tons of talent on both teams, and this could easily foreshadow a possible playoff matchup, probably in the second round of the playoffs, saying that Buffalo would be coming off a bye. But for Buffalo, they've won 6 straight. Like I said, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. They've lost 2 road games by a combined total of 5 points this season. So Buffalo, they haven't lost at home, but they are on the road here, and that's where both of their losses came. For the Bengals, they won 7 straight games. They're at home here. They're currently the 3 seed, and right now they're hanging on to the little hope they have at the number 1 seed in the AFC. But it all starts here. Obviously they would need some help with Kansas City losing 1 game, and they would need to win this game here. But like I said, it all starts here. This matchup will not disappoint, in my opinion. It's super hard to pick a winner with how complete both teams are. Usually I would say that Buffalo would win this game because of Cincinnati's defense. However, Cincy's defense has been criminally underrated this season. They've really stepped up. They've looked a lot better this year. It's definitely the best defense that Joe Burrow's had in his 3 years in Cincy. But for those reasons, I believe it's tough. It is tough because I'm on the spot picking these matchups. Give me the Bengals offense and this Bengals team overall to come out with the win, because I do believe in the Bengals offense more than the Bills offense. So give me Buffalo, or give me the Bengals to pull off a big win and make the home field advantage race in the AFC very, very interesting. But on your screen now, you see my picks of the week. We'll run through our winners from Thursday to Monday. We have Dallas, Arizona, Detroit, Kansas City, New England, the Giants to clinch a playoff spot, the Eagles, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Baltimore, Jacksonville, San Fran, Seattle, Green Bay, LA, and Cincy. Last week we went 10-6. So back-to-back weeks we went 10-6. We're looking to pass 100 wins this week. Obviously we started our predictions a little bit late, but regardless, we're right 60% of the time. Right, so more times than not, we will be right on these games, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with that. But that's going to do it for today's show. Hopefully, you guys all enjoyed. As I mentioned in the intro, we are just 2 days away from the new year, which is still kind of mind-boggling, right? It's still kind of crazy. But that also does remind me. I don't know how I forgot this to not include it in the show, but we'll do it now. The college football playoff is coming up this Saturday, and obviously we have Georgia and OSU playing. We have Michigan and TCU playing. As much as I would love for TCU to win, and as much as I think that Georgia is going to dominate any team that meets them in this playoffs, whether if it's Ohio State, Michigan, or TCU, I would be okay to see another Ohio State Michigan final. I can't see TCU winning, especially with how they played in their bowl game. And I don't think Georgia struggles, like I said, against anybody besides Bama in the entire world. So it's tough for me to go against Georgia. If I was putting money on it, give me Georgia, Michigan final. Obviously, that's not a sexy pick, right? Because they're both the 1 and 2 seeds. But give me OSU and Michigan to meet again, right? Obviously, it was a great game a couple weeks ago. But anyway, I have something fun, or hopefully you have something fun planned for this weekend. I can't talk, but hopefully you're going to have fun this weekend. That's what I'm getting at. Hopefully you're not going to be alone going into the new year, because that's never fun, right? But the most important thing to me is that you guys stay careful. You guys are careful this weekend. New Year's is one of the worst times of the year, right, to be on the road. So if you're driving, be careful. But aside from the precautions, have some fun. It's one of the times every year where you can just kick back and have fun, right? Make some New Year's resolutions, but stick to them. Hold yourself accountable going into the new year to the resolutions that you set, because, hey, you know your body better than anybody else. You know what you can do better than anybody else. You know what you can handle more than anybody else, right? So don't make your goals outrageous, right? Put some thought into it, today, tomorrow, and then obviously New Year's. Put some thought into your resolutions, man. And just remember, any progress is better than no progress, right? So even if it's just a small goal, chase it, make the most out of it, right? Attack that small goal, right? Also, I don't want to forget, if you're in the Fantasy Football Championships this weekend, first off, congratulations. I think in most money leagues, you've secured yourself at least some money, right? I won't be joining you this year in the Fantasy Football Championships, but I wish you guys all the best of luck this weekend. Seriously, win some big money. If you enjoyed the show, drop a like on the stream, the podcast, whatever you want to call it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new or if you're lurking, or, if you just liked what you heard. And turn those post notifications on, man, because we will be back next year better than ever. I will see you guys on Tuesday, first show of 2023. I'm excited. But until then, peace, love, and hugs. Be careful this weekend. Have some fun, though. Have some fun. I will see you guys in 2023. Thank you guys for 2022. All the episodes. Thank you guys for the support, the love, everything. I mean it from deep down in my heart. Thank you guys for everything so far. But 2023 is our year. And I'll see you guys then. I'm out.